Hi, it's Christina with the Sisyphean Journal. Today is May 25th, and I don't have an anniversary for today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to listen with you to a little bit of a discussion. Tim Poole had guest Kristan Hawkins, a pro-life woman, and Pastor Ryan Phipps, a pastor who takes a pretty strong stand in favor of ready availability of legal abortion, and I'll put that charitably. If you listen to the whole thing, he's pretty rabidly pro-abortion. This guy probably never saw an abortion he didn't like. So I'm just going to play a little bit, come up with something that deserves a response, respond, and then this is going to be in little chunks. So I'll provide the link to this particular video below. Let's have a listen.
The fundamental question here is, what is abortion and what does it do, and the harms? Because absolutely, I think that
you're talking about life begins at conception then.
Well, yes, we all know life begins at conception. Biologists confirm that life begins at conception.
Would you disagree?
I would. Yeah.
When do you think you became you?
When did I become me?
Yeah, when did you come into existence as Ryan?
She asked a really good question there.
September 9th of 1976.
Okay, so he gives his birth date. Let's hear how she responds.
When my body left my mother's body and was detached, and I began to breathe and
You weren't living before you were evacuated out of the womb?
Okay, and he's describing a process, coming out of the body and drawing a breath. I'd love to ask him, if your mother had opted for a water birth, so you were born underwater, if they had cut the cord and held you under the water so that you drowned, would you have ever been a person, and would that have been wrong to kill you in that way? That'd be a very, very interesting to hear how he would respond to that.
I had to be connected to my mother's body in order to be alive.
Okay, so it sounds like he might say, well, since you were under the water, if he was under the water, he still would have had to be connected to her. He's not saying within her body, he's saying connected to her body. So, again, I'm wondering if she's going to go that way with him.
But you were alive because things were happening, right? Because you didn't magically, your mother's vaginal canal is not magical. It doesn't turn a non-living entity into a living entity. You were alive, you were born, and you changed locations. Now your degree of dependency changed, but you were still alive. Right? Cellular reproduction was happening. You were growing. You were metabolizing food into energy. So if you look at the biological markers for what is alive and what is life, you were alive.
Are you speaking of a life in terms of a heartbeat or a soul? What do you mean by that?
I'm talking.
Oh, he's starting to weasel.
Talking science. I'm saying science is definitive. We know human life begins at conception when two parts unite and form a unique whole that's never existed before, will never exist again. A unique DNA code has been created, and at that moment...
Plants have a unique DNA code.
Okay, so this is a really standard, unique DNA means nothing.
Would you call
Sure.
It wrong
Plants
to eat a
are
salad?
alive. Humans, there are lots of things.
I was eating the babies.
Yeah, animals are
I hope
alive.
not, too.
But to say that you weren't alive until you left your mother's womb and that degree of dependency changed is a false statement to say, because you were obviously alive. You were living.
Well, it seems there's a different definition of life.
Yes.
You've got a social, maybe a metaphysical definition?
Life is not one dot, it's a many-sided diamond, and that all has to be taken into account.
Okay, so again, seems kind of weaselly to me. He's getting metaphysical, she's being scientific, and he doesn't seem to like that.
I think scientifically, if we're talking about cellular life,
Yes.
life on Mars or whatever, babies are alive, life begins at conception.
Yeah,
But you're
it's human
making a
life.
more spiritual or argument, I suppose.
I'm saying that bacteria is alive.
Okay, so he is comparing the unborn child literally a millisecond before birth to a bacteria. That seems kind of dehumanizing to me.
I'm saying that small cells are alive. I'm saying that human beings are alive. The animals are alive. But there are degrees to where that life becomes something that thinks on its own, decides on its own.
Okay, now notice how he completely changed course here. He went from, I was separate from my mother's body, to all these attributes of consciousness and thought and planning. So he made a huge leap there from a neonate who has just had the cord cut to, yeah, that neonate can't do all these things he's describing right now. So right now, his argument is that newborns aren't people yet.
Chooses what it believes.
Is it,
What newborn chooses what it believes?
is that the threshold for when inalienable rights kick in?
Good job, Tim. Yes.
When you can think and function for yourself or experience or feel?
I think that what it comes down to is that there should not be a legislative force that is making that decision for a woman.
Okay, so he just said that the legislative force should not be allowed to make the decision for the woman, but he's also defining life as being pretty sophisticated. You're beyond toddlerhood at this point. You're probably getting well into preschool before you meet the criteria he just had for, you know, being a valuable life with any kind of moral agency.
That should be her choice.
But the questions you have to answer, because I'm pro-choice of many things. I'm speaking as the only female here. You know, I believe women should have the right to choose if they marry, who they marry, you know, what education. Sorry. You know, the education, their career, their health.
Okay, she kind of went off track here. I really would have rather seen her kind of nail him down about, do you still think the woman should have the choice between cutting the cord and you're drawing that first breath and you've achieved all these other milestones that you just described? Okay, so, you know, she had him there. He has about three to 5 year time span between first breath and the cord is cut, and you have all these moral and intellectual capacities that he's describing as making you a valuable human being. So I'm going to see if she takes him back to that.
Healthcare, but I don't think I, as a woman, get to choose whether or not a human being has value or gets to live, because it's not. I think that's what has to get answered at this whole like debate level, when you start saying, well, I don't think the state should legislate. Well, why do we have laws, right? There's a lot of debate about how.
Okay, so she's going off into new topics, and this is a long enough video for now. So let's just stay with that, and we'll be back later for more of this very interesting discussion.